and welcome to this video all about teeny tiny English paper piecing. Today I'm going to show you how to make some tiny hexagons and how to sew them together to make a little hexagon flower. But first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel, given my videos a thumbs up and left me a lovely comment. I really appreciate your support, it makes a massive difference, so thank you so much. So this week I'm going to show you how to make a tiny hexagon flower just like this, but do subscribe if you haven't already, because next week I'm going to show you how to put this tiny flower onto a little tiny pin cushion, and I have one just here. In fact, I call it a pin cushion, but actually it's more like a needle cushion. I use this to just park my needle in between projects, and I use it all the time. So if you'd like to make one of these and see me do it and show you how to do it, do stick around for that for next week. But this week, let's focus on tiny hexagon flowers. For these tiny hexagon flowers, I use 1/4" hexagons. And normally with English paper piecing you would use paper hexagons, but I like to use these hexiform hexagons, and they're made by Ashmead Designs. And all they are tiny 1/4" hexagons, but unlike paper, you can leave these in, and that's actually really useful when you are working with something that is so tiny. So you can see on this project that they've all been left in. So it saves you time because you don't have to pull them out, but also it gives a really nice texture, nice structure to the fabric, so I like to use those. What I love about these tiny hexagons is that it gives you the opportunity to see your fabric in a really different way. I love using fabric scraps, that's what I mainly use in all of my projects, and I really like using Liberty fabric. And the tiny floral prints are perfect for this. It allows you to just focus in on a tiny area of the fabric and fussy cut that flower, and you get a really lovely effect. I've been collecting scrap fabrics that have tiny print, especially for tiny hexagons. So let's delve into my fabric scrap box and pick some out for today's project. So this is my box, and in here I've been collecting scrap fabrics, tiny pieces, and most of them have tiny prints which are perfect for tiny hexagons. So I'm just going to rifle through here and pick out 7 different ones to make a lovely hexagon flower. So I've chosen my 7 prints. I've tried to get a mixture of colours, a balance between brighter colours and softer colours. So now we're ready to make the hexagons. You will need a sharp pair of scissors for this. I like these clover scissors. They're small, pointy and really sharp, perfect for this job. And I use a sew line glue pen, which is really handy. It works perfectly for this, and it actually doesn't matter how much glue you end up using because you aren't going to be removing the hexagons if you use hexiform ones like I do. If you're using the paper ones, then just use a little bit less glue. So I'm going to pick up my fabric, choose the area I want to centralise on the hexagon, and I really like this flower here. You see that tiny flower? I'm going to choose that one. So turn it over to the wrong side, put a dab of glue on my tiny hexagon there. See that? Just a tiny dab of glue, and then stick it down my fabric. So now it's time to cut around this hexagon, but you need to leave some seam allowance, roughly about, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more, like so. That's why sharp pointy scissors are very good for this. They're essential, in fact. There we go. So now it's time to glue down your seam allowances, so put a dab of glue along the edge. Fold over your seam allowance, gently press, making sure you keep that edge straight. Because hexiform is flexible, you need to just be careful that you don't bend it, because then your hexagon won't be an accurate shape. So try not to get the glue too near to the edge either, otherwise it will make it more difficult to sew through, because your needle will be sticking to the glue along the edge. So it's just a dab of glue, you don't need a lot. Press it down with your finger, making sure you're keeping the sides straight and you're not bending the hexiform, like so. Final dab, and there we go. Tiny, tiny hexagon. Now I've got 6 more to make. So all my hexagons are ready now, so it's just a case of playing around with them to see which way they should be organised into the flower, what I like best. I think I'm going to put the pale one in the centre, put that one down there, this one here, I like that one. See which way round I want the flower to look as well, and I like maybe this one here. Yep, I like that actually. So yeah, I've decided that's the way my hexagon flower is going to be arranged. So now it's time to stitch. So I'll thread my needle. I don't use double thread or anything like that, I just use a single thread. I don't do anything fancy in terms of knots. I just put an ordinary knot in the end. I don't worry about it being too big. I take a few stitches at the beginning to secure it anyway, but I always just put a knot at the end, tiny knot. As with other hexagons, no matter what size they are, the way I like to do it is to start with the central hexagon and the one that goes at the top, and I put them right, that's one of the hazards of tiny hexagons, they can pop out of your hand, but I put them right sides together like this, and I line up that edge and line up the corners like that. I put my needle right through the corners of both hexagons, like so. Pull it through until it hits that knot, and then I take another stitch in exactly the same place, and this time I put my needle through the loop before I've pulled it all the way through, just to catch that and secure it with a knot like that. That's not going to come undone now, and I'm ready to whip stitch along here. So to whip stitch, it's just like you would for any other type of English paper piecing, any other shape or larger shapes. It's just catching a tiny little bite of the fabric on each side of your needle, and I always sew from the right side to the left, but if you do it the other way around, it doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong with how you do it. I just try and make my stitches tiny, quite close together, but you don't want them too close together, so it's just finding the balance really. And pull the thread tight, you don't want them to be too loose. And work your way down to the end of the seam. When you get to this corner here, make sure I put the needle right in the corner again, and then I take another stitch right in the corner and do what I did at the beginning, put the needle through the loop and pull, and that way it's not going to come undone, and you have joined your first two teeny tiny hexagons together like so. I make these tiny hexagons in exactly the same way as I would make a larger hexagon. The only real difference is the size. If you'd like to see me make a bigger hexagon, then I do have a video all about that, where I explain about the hexiform again and I show you how I sew it together. I have a video about glue basting hexagons and a video about sewing them together. So I will leave some links above so you can check those out if you'd like to. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I like to make lots of tiny things. So I post on there pretty much daily when I can. So if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I would absolutely love that. I am Vintage Sewing Box on Instagram. And I also have a website, which is www.vintagesewingbox.co.uk. I'll leave links to that and to my Instagram below. But on my website I have a blog, and I love writing about sewing, and particularly English paper piecing and embroidery. And I do also have some patterns if you'd like to check those out, and lots of free patterns and tutorials as well. I love doing tiny hexagons and tiny projects because I feel like it's a great way to use up scraps. I must admit that in the past, before I discovered this, I used to just throw my scraps away, my tiny scraps, but now pretty much any scrap can be used. It really is only the most minute pieces that I throw away now. Keep everything. And I think scraps are really valuable for projects like this. I see them like a paint palette, and when I'm creating a tiny hexagon project, I look through my scraps and choose my colours. I just love it. I think it's so exciting to see what new look you can come up with by using your fabrics in this way. I know tiny hexagons are not for everybody. They can be fiddly, but a bit of practice, I got used to it. It definitely was a bit fiddly at first. I was a little bit old fingers and thumbs, but I persevered with it, and I find them really fun and relaxing. I can immerse myself in what I'm doing and block out any worries or stress, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about English paper piecing and any handcraft, needlecraft. It really is so therapeutic and calming, and that's the whole reason why I'm sharing things on YouTube and on my Instagram and my website. I really want to spread the joy of sewing. I want to hopefully encourage people to have a go themselves. I find it so beneficial to my life. It really relaxes me, calms me, and I really hope that if you're watching this video and you haven't tried this before, that you do give it a go and that you feel the same benefits that I do. So, I'm right at the end of my hexagon flower now. So I just finished with a knot and voila, there it is. Oh, I really like that. It's turned out really, really nice. So thank you so much for watching this little tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed it. Next week, as I said, I'll be showing you how to use this to make a little pincushion or needle stop, if you like, because that's what I always use it for. Just pop the needle in and it's safe, it's not going to get lost anywhere. So that's it. Thank you so much. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it and do subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Take care. Goodbye.